My reflection on developing an ecumenical spirit comes not from academic expertise, but from many years as a priest and a bishop whose primary work has been pastoral. I have been greatly enriched by the work of my academic colleagues, and not least in the community of the International Orthodox Theological Association. And I believe deeply in the importance of the contribution of theologians to the life, mission, and witness of the Church. But these few remarks claim no authority except that of someone who has tried over almost half a century to live into the ecumenical vocation. In the middle of the 20th century, when many fine theologians from our churches were writing the kind of theology that is still extraordinary for its depth and imagination, the remarkable Russian Orthodox theologian Lev Zander used this arresting image to describe how divisions evolve. And this was an image that Metropolitan Antony of Suroz also liked to quote. First of all, Zander said, there is disagreement. From being in relationship with each other, from trying to deal with disagreements face to face, two persons or two groups turn our backs on the other. In that moment, we move from intimacy to being infinitely far from each other, for we can no longer see each other's face. Our vistas become completely different, for we are looking in opposite directions. But in that moment of turning our backs on one another, we can still feel each other's shoulder blades against our own. There is still a touch, even if we can no longer remember what the other really looks like. But as this is a deeply uncomfortable position, to feel one another's back pressed against another's back, we begin to move away from each other in our own different directions. And we move in the direction of the horizon before us, a different horizon in each case. But since the world is round and not flat, if we journey far enough, eventually we come face to face with the one on whom we once turned our back. This is a geographical image that Zander uses, of course, but it is also a spiritual truth. In the meantime, on that long journey alone, we have become old. We have developed our understandings and lived into the truth in isolation. We have achieved whatever fullness we could achieve, and we have forgotten our fundamental need of each other. We even have made a virtue of the strength and vitality that we have needed when we were on our respective solitary journeys. The 20th century saw the miracle of Christians finally coming full circle from our separate journeys alone to the point where we have returned to be able to see each other face to face. It was in most cases a startling meeting, so startling that we have not, even almost 100 years later, fully assimilated its meaning and significance for ourselves. It is continuing this journey of recovery and rediscovery that is our ecumenical vocation. There are some marks of a truly ecumenical spirit that seem to me to be crucial, and these are not unfamiliar. I'm not going to be saying anything to you that you do not already know. Indeed, we've known these things for a very long time, and we've lived them in the past, even if more recently we may have wandered a bit. First of all, it seems to me, if we're going to live a truly ecumenical spirit, we must be curious about each other. Our 20th century predecessors of East and West found deep delight and fascination in each other, and their work and activity were so fruitful, fruit that we enjoy today even without realizing its source in many cases. And it seems to me we must recapture that irrepressible curiosity. Then I think we must be generous to each other. No relationships thrive without generosity, the kind of selfless self-giving that we know in God himself. We can accomplish very little in any enterprise without such generosity, and this manifests itself in, at the very least, assuming the best in each other. We often speak about what we must have if we are to accept unity with each other, but what perhaps are we willing to relinquish for that unity? Generosity is always most strikingly experienced in kenosis, and Patriarch Bartholomew has often told us that we must outdo each other in that kind of kenotic self-giving. Then we must be open to the healing of memories. The sad history of our divisions requires the balm of forgiveness, and there are none without the need of this. To refuse forgiveness is almost as problematic as to refuse to extend it, and yet we must become much better at both. Nor can we forget that we may, in our life and work, both fulfill that work that was left undone by our predecessors, and even put right some things that our predecessors may have done amiss, and so we may participate in their as well as our eternal destiny. Then we must never do on our own what we can possibly do together, whatever it is, from theological enterprises to feeding programs in our local communities. Common work always opens up new vistas for us. Then we must be impatient. We must be eager for unity and refuse the status quo in which we are currently living. After all, divisions have existed among us for, in some cases, almost 1,500 years. No one can accuse us of rushing anything at this point. This does not mean that we do not do the necessary work, but it also means that our impatience must always keep us on the move. As an old prayer says, "O Lord, keep us from accepting our divisions as though they are our destiny." Then we must be hopeful. Unity is not a purely human achievement, it is a divine gift. But it does not have to be a gift only given in the age that is to come. We are partners with God in this as in everything else. When it comes to the journey of full communion, we cannot be functional atheists and assume that it is all up to us. For God is also at work, even, perhaps especially, when we are stuck or at a loss. We know that this unity is God's will for the Church, and perhaps our best work sometimes is simply to get out of the way. In the last analysis, I am encouraged in the ecumenical journey by the Last Supper and what happened there. For our Lord shared the Last Supper, that first Eucharist, with St. Peter, who would deny him, and the other disciples, all but one of whom would abandon him at the darkest hour. I don't think we really explored that event for its ecumenical possibilities. If our Lord was content to do this, to entrust the sacred banquet to one who would deny him and others who would abandon him, what might this mean for us who are yet unwilling or think ourselves unable to share the Eucharist with each other? And if, as we constantly proclaim, the unity of the followers of Jesus is God's will for us, then by definition we realize to our consternation that none of our churches can live the fullness of the faith of Christ while we are divided. All of us are in some fundamental way diminished. The ecumenical spirit is the spirit that will not rest until our expression of unity and full communion matches our devotion to our faith in the triune God, who has created us for his glory and for joy without end.